Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture series for NATA and JEE-2 preparation. In this 51-day course, we will cover the entire syllabus of both NATA and also JEE Paper 2 examination. Today, on day 1 of this 51-day course, we are looking into the topic of elements and principles of design. Before I start with the topic, let me give you an overview as to what are the modules and how we go about this topic and where we exactly fit into this 51-day course in today's lecture. So, firstly, as you probably are aware that we are doing this lecture series in 8 modules. We have divided the entire syllabus of NATA and JEE considering the official syllabus, recent changes in the pattern and also previous question papers. Considering all these 3 inputs, we have created a comprehensive 8 module structure to cover the entire syllabus of both NATA and also JEE paper 2. So today, that is in module number 1. Today we are starting with module number 1, which is basics of design. In this first module, basics of design, we will cover this complete module in 4 days, starting from day 1, that is elements and principles of design, today's topic, till day 4, which would be important symbols and flags. So day 2 would be color theory, day 3 would be important logos, and day 4 would be important symbols and flags. So these are the 4 lectures we are doing in module number 1, that is basics of design. Without any further delay, let us start with the first topic of module number 1, that is elements and principles of design. So let us start with this topic now. So firstly, let us try to understand what are elements and principles of design. Now, what is the difference? What is elements of design? What is principles of design? Let us try to first understand the difference between these two terms. Then we will look into the 6 important principles of design and the important principles of design as well. Elements and principles, both we will cover in the lecture. So first, let us try to understand what are elements of design. The word elements, you might have studied in your chemistry in your school days. You have elements in chemistry, also in periodic table. What are elements basically? In chemistry, any chemical compound is composed of those basic constituents. Those basic constituents are called as elements in a periodic table in chemistry. Similarly, in design also, any design, it could be a painting, it could be a graphic design which includes brochure, it could be a logo design, it could be a design of building or landscape in terms of gardens. So any design would be composed of some elements. Elements of design are basically those, like for example, if I ask you to create a painting or if I ask you to draw a drawing, that also is a design. How do you create it? You use lines, you use shapes, you use shading, texture. So these texture, lines, color, all these are called as elements of design. So elements are the constituents which are used to create a design. Just like in chemistry, elements of periodic table are used to create chemical compounds. Similarly, you create designs using elements of design. So that is elements. Coming to the second point, what are principles of design then? Principles are basically the rules used in design. There are some basic rules which if you follow those basic rules of design, you can end up getting good designs in your design career. It could be any design, it could be paintings, as I told you, it could be painting, sculpture, any form of creative art where you use designs. You can follow these basic rules of design. So these are the 2 points. We are first understanding elements and then we will look into the rules of design, that is principles of design. Understanding elements and principles of design is a prerequisite for any design course, for any course which involves creativity, including architecture. That is the reason we are studying these topics, and both these topics are important from both NATA and also JEE paper 2 point of view. We will look into some NATA questions. So the structure we follow is, we will first complete the theory part of elements of design, then we will study our principles of design. Towards the end, we will solve some questions from previous NATA paper so as to get an understanding of what type of questions will actually be asked from these topics. So let me first start with the topic of elements of design. So there are 6 basic elements of design. Let us try to understand all these 6 elements of design one by one. The first element of design is line. Line is basically a connection between 2 dots. You can see there are various types of line you can have. So line is basically a connection between 2 dots. If you're having a 2 dots, the connection between those 2 dots is called as a line. A line can be a straight line. You can have a curved line connecting 2 dots. You can also have a dotted line connecting 2 dots. So line can be of different types. You can have straight line, curved line, dotted line. Line is a connection between two dots, and line is something which has only length. If I draw a rectangle, rectangle has two dimensions. It will have a length, it will also have a breadth, length and breadth, right? If I draw a square, that also will have both length and the other dimension also. It has some thickness as well, right? But line is something which doesn't have, which has only one dimension, that is length. It is a connection between two dots, and that is the first basic element of design. The second element of design is color. So again, think in the terms of what are elements. Elements are the basic constituents of any design. If you're creating a drawing, how can you create a drawing? You can create it using lines. You will sometimes use color in it, right? So if you're in JEE exam, you get those drawing questions where you need to create compositions. How do you create compositions? Using lines, using color, right? So these are elements. Whatever you use to create a design are called as elements of design. So color is the second element of design. There is a separate lecture on color theory where we will in detail study about the concepts of color theory. So we will go into the details in the second day. Day 2 lecture is color theory, where we will in detail study the concepts and terms associated with color. For now, just remember that the second basic constituent or the second basic element of design is color. Third basic element of design is shape. What is a shape? Shape is an area which is defined either by a line or by a color. For example, so I'll give you the definition, but first, if I use three lines and join them this way, I'll get a shape. This is a triangle. If I use four lines, I can create a square. These are shapes. How do you create a shape? Either by using lines like I did over here. You can use lines to create a shape, or you can use a color to create a shape. There is a yellow color hexagon over here. That's a shape. How is it created? There are no lines, but it is defined by a color. There is a blue parallelogram, blue shaded parallelogram. So any shape can either be created by using the first element of design, that is line, or the second element of design, that is color. So line and color are the basic constituents, basic elements. Using them you can create shapes. Now by definition, what is a shape? It is basically an area defined by a line or a color. So make a note of the definition of what is a shape. It is an area defined by a line or a color. Defined by an area which is defined by a line or a color is called as shape. That is the third element of design. Now one important point to be understood with respect to shape is there are two types of shapes in design. You can have geometric and organic shapes. You can look into this diagram over here. The first two pictures, parallelogram and hexagon, these are defined by geometry, right? So shapes here of two types. I'll write over here. First one is geometric shapes. Shapes are of, write a note of it. After the definition, write down shapes are of two types: geometric shapes and number two, organic shapes. So shapes are of two types: geometric shapes and organic shapes. What is the difference between organic and geometric shapes? Geometric shapes, firstly, are those shapes which are defined by some rules of geometry. If I draw a circle, circle is defined by a basic rule of geometry that all the points are equidistant from a center. What is the definition of a circle? It is set of points on a plane which are equidistant from a center, right? How do you draw a triangle? Triangle is a figure formed by joining three lines where the sum of the three interior angles is always 180 degrees. That is the rule of geometry. So any shape which is formed, here you have parallelogram. What is a parallelogram? It is a four-sided polygon in which the opposite sides are parallel to each other. These two are parallel. The other two opposite sides are parallel again. What is a hexagon? It is a six-sided polygon which is formed by six lines joining, right? So any shape which is following some rule of geometry is called as a geometric shape. So geometric shapes are those shapes which are following some rule of geometry, like it could be a circle, it could be a triangle, it could be a parallelogram, or a hexagon like we discussed over here. So that is the first group, that is geometric shapes. So you can write examples of geometric shapes include circle, triangle, etc. So these are the examples for geometric shapes. The second type of shapes are organic shapes. Conversely, opposite to geometric shapes, organic shapes are not defined by any specific geometry. They are random in shape. Generally, the shapes which you see in nature, the shapes of leaves, the shapes of flowers, they're not defined by a geometry. Like, you don't have fixed number of sides, you don't have fixed rules with respect to interior angles like you have in other geometric shapes. You have some random shapes over here as well. This pink colored shape, it is an organic shape. So organic shapes are randomized in nature, formed using curves. Generally, they are of naturalistic origin. They have natural light. So in nature, when you look into flowers, leaves, all these are not defined by any straight lines or geometric forms. They are randomized in shape. So those are called as organic shapes. So the third element of design is shape. Firstly, what is the definition of shape? It is an area which is bound by lines or by using color. Shape is of two types, geometric shape and organic shape. Geometric shape are defined by rules of geometry like triangle, circle, hexagon, parallelogram. Organic shapes are randomized shapes which are not defined by any well-defined geometry. They are generally seen in nature like leaves and flowers. That is about shape, the third element of design. Now that brings us to the fourth element of design over here. This is form. Form is a 3D object. Form is also sometimes referred to as solids. Forms are also sometimes referred to as solids. So solids or forms are basically 3D objects. Forms or solids are 3D objects which are how do you create a 3D object? 3D object, how can you draw it on? You can see some 3D objects here. They are drawn on the board. How can you put on those 3D objects onto the piece of paper? Generally by using shading and shadow techniques. In the sketching classes, you will learn about shading techniques and shadow techniques to create interesting drawings. So using those techniques of shading and shadows, you can create those 3D objects on a 2D plane. Because paper, board, all these are 2D surfaces. How can you represent 3D objects on that? So 3D objects are generally created in design. Form or solids are basically 3D objects generally created, generally represented using shading and shadows. That's the definition for form or solids. Form or solids are basically 3D objects which are generally represented using shading and shadow techniques. So that is fourth element of design, solid or form. That brings us to the fifth element of design, which is texture. Texture talks about how rough or smooth something is. If I ask you what is the texture of a glass, it is smooth texture. What is the texture of a polished marble flooring? It is a smooth texture. What is the texture of a woolen, say of a woolen sweater? It is rough texture because it is fabric, woolen fabric, right? So texture is that roughness or smoothness of some surface. So number 5 is texture. Texture in design, you can see in this picture, a rough texture is created. It's not smooth structure, texture. It looks like a rough texture. Why? Because there are grains. There is these dots in design. That roughness created in design is called as grain size. Using grain size and using grains in design, you can create rough texture. So texture is basically roughness of something. Roughness or smoothness of a surface is called as texture. How do you create texture in design? Using grain size. Roughness or smoothness created using grain pattern. So if you're using grain pattern with small dots, it creates a smooth texture. If you're using you're using grain structure in such a way that the grains are slightly larger in size, you can create a rough texture. Texture is roughness or smoothness which is created using grain size or grain pattern. So that is the fifth element of design, that is texture. Last and final, sixth element of design is space. Space is basically the area on which you create a design. Number 6 is space. You can look into these pictures at the bottom over here. The picture number 1, that is shown as two faces with black shade and the background is white in color. so that background is called as a negative space. And the objects placed, there are two faces which are placed, those are positive spaces. So space is basically it is also sometimes called as figure and ground. It is also space is basically the background on which you create design. And you can use terms in the context of space, you use the terms like positive and negative space. So space is generally positive and negative space. The relation between, so what is positive and negative space? This is positive space, the object is called here. The second image is also exactly same profile, but just the positive and negative spaces are interchanged. The portion which is white here, it is made black into black color over here, and the black part over here is turning white in this. Actually they are same, but there is just an alteration of the positive and negative space. Positive space is basically the object. Here the object is the glass, the background is of face profile, but it becomes the background, it is the negative space. In the first picture, the faces are the objects, so they become the positive space. The background, which is a glass profile, that becomes the negative space. So positive and negative space are basically, positive space is the object placed on the background, negative space is the background in the design. So when you place any color, any shape, you create a positive and negative space in the design. That positive and negative space is the next element, last and final element of design, that is space. Number 6, one important term to remember over here, positive and negative space is also associated with the term which is figure and ground. Positive space is called as figure, negative space is called as ground sometimes. So in design we use this term. Once in NATA examination there was an option in multiple select question, figure and ground. You need to know what is figure and ground. Figure is the object, ground is the background. So positive and negative space is also called as figure and ground. You can see over here this black glass, that is the figure, the white portion is the ground. So it is positive and negative space of figure and ground relation. So these are the 6 basic elements of design. A quick recall on the 6 basic elements of design before we move on to the next part, that is principles of design. Number 1, the first element of design is line. Line is a connection between two dots. It can be of various types. Second is color. Color is basically used to create any design. That is the second basic element of design. Third basic element of design, that is shape. Shape is created using, what is the definition of shape? It is an area which is defined by a line or a color. It can be of two types, that is geometric and organic shapes. And fourth element of design is form. Forms, also called as solids, are 3D objects which are created using shading and shadow techniques. And then you have fifth element of design, that is texture, which is roughness or smoothness of something, which is defined by the grain patterns in the design. And finally, sixth element of design is the background and the figure and the ground. Figure is the object, the element used, and background is called as ground. Figure and ground of positive and negative space. So space is the area in which you create a design. So these are the 6 basic elements of design which are used to create any design, be it a painting or a graphic design or a logo design, any type of design. You use these basic elements of design. Now with this understanding of elements of design, let us move on to the next part of the lecture, that is to understand about the principles of design. But before that, in the course of the lecture, I'm giving you a lot of definitions. I'm asking you to make a note of it. So make sure you maintain your own running notes, because after the lecture series, you should have something to study from. You cannot always come back and keep watching the lectures, right? You watch it once. Obviously, these lectures are available on the YouTube channel and you can watch it multiple times till you get perfection. But maintain a running note so that you revise it later on before the examination. That is very crucial. And in addition to that, you can also access our free study resources on the app. So make sure you download KP Classes mobile app, which is available for free on Play Store. So you can download the KP Classes app. So you can search for KP Classes on the Play Store, and you will find this logo. This is the icon of the app. So make sure, because there can be some other KP Classes apps also which are not the authentic one. So download the actual KP Classes app with this particular icon. Once you download the app, sign up into it. Once you sign up into the app, you will find 3 horizontal bars on the left side of the screen. So once you click on those 3 horizontal bars on the left side top of the screen, you will get the side draw open. Once the side draw opens, the second point is study material. So you can access the free study material over there for all the day 1 till day 51. For all the days, in addition to the lecture series which you're getting, you can download the free study resources over there so that you can also recall from there all these presentations, and the other additional study resources will be available on the KP Classes app day wise. So access the free study resources from the KP Classes app for better understanding of the concepts. So moving further, the next point is to understand about the principles of design. Now that we know about the 6 basic elements of design, how to use these elements. When you create any design, you require these elements. You use those elements to create any design. When you're creating designs, you should follow some basic rules. If you follow these rules, obviously you can create designs without following these rules also. But if you follow these rules, you will get better results. You will get aesthetically appealing and good quality designs. So these rules are called as principles of design. So what are principles of design? These are basically the rules which are used to create any design. So we will look into the 7 basic principles of design. Principles of design can be multiple in number, but we are looking into the 7 basic most important principles of design one by one. And we will also discuss previous NATA questions so that you understand what type of questions can actually be asked in the paper. For JEE point of view, you need to create compositions where you use all these principles. So we have separate lectures moving further. When we have the sketching and composition classes, you will learn how to apply all these knowledge, all the points we are discussing here, how to apply them in JEE and not JEE point of view when you create compositions. You will learn that moving ahead. For now, let us focus on understanding the 7 basic principles of design, and we will solve the NATA questions where they test you the knowledge of the principles of design also. So let me start by showing you 2 pictures over here. You can see 2 compositions. These are called as composition. What is a composition? It is a design which is created using elements. There are 3 elements used here. What are those 3 elements? These are 3 rectangles, 1, 2 and 3. Rectangle is a shape. It is a geometric shape, and shape is a third element of design. We discussed 6 elements of design. Of that, the third one was shape. Of that, there is geometric shape, right? So these are 3 geometric shaped elements, 1, 2 and 3. The same 3 geometric shapes are used in the second composition also, 1, 2 and 3. Exactly same 3 elements, same shape, same size, same shade, everything is same, but the composition is different, right? So in these 2 compositions, if I show you the first and the second composition from design point of view, in the first one there is uniformity. In which do you have uniformity? If I ask, in the first and second, this is the first composition and this is the second composition, in which do you have better uniformity? There is uniformity in the first picture. Why? If I draw a line, there is equal distribution of the weight, equal distribution of elements, uniform distribution. In the second one, do you have uniform distribution? No, there is a lot of emptiness over here on this corner, right? All the weight is distributed only in this 3 corners of the space. So how well you're utilizing the space, that is the first principle of design. When you maintain a uniformity of the distribution of elements, that is called as balance in principles of design. So the first principle of design we will be looking into is balance. First principle of design is balance. First principle of design, make a note, is balance. And what is balance? Uniformity. Basically, uniformity in any design is called as balance. Now in these 2 pictures, again there's one more example here. There are 3 same elements, again 3 squares, geometric shapes. Again there are 3 elements in this design. The same 3 elements are used in the second composition. In which design do you have uniformity? In the first one, there is relative equally distribution of the weight, right? In the second composition, all the elements are distributed only on one side and there's a lot of emptiness here, right? So the second one is not a balanced composition. So balance is uniformity in distribution. You should not have everything in one corner. All the elements should be equally distributed. For example, if you imagine Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal is a world famous building and everyone is aware of how Taj Mahal looks like. And in the building of Taj Mahal, there are 4 minars on the 4 corners. Imagine, instead of having those in the 4 corners, if you place all the 4 minars in one corner, will it be a balanced composition? No. Taj Mahal looks so beautiful because there is a balance in the composition of the building. Balance because all the minars are placed on the 4 corners and the building is in the center. So there is uniformity in distribution. right? So that is how you use uniformity in distribution in building design. Also you can use in compositions, pattern creations, UI UX design, graphic design, any design you can use these principles of design. So first principle of design is balance. Let me give you the definition for balance. You can see here, this one is balanced composition, left. The right one is imbalanced composition, because there is no uniformity. So I hope you understand what is balance. What is balance? Uniformity in the distribution of the elements, right? That is called as balance. So make a note on the definition on what is balance. So first principle of design we discussed is balance. Make a note on the definition of what is balance. Uniformity in the distribution of visual weight. Uniformity in the distribution. Uniformity in the distribution of visual weight. Uniformity in the distribution of visual weight of elements in a design. Uniformity in the distribution of visual weight of elements in a design is called as balance. Now what are we uniformly distributing? What do I say when I say, what do I mean by having uniformity in distribution? We are talking about the visual weight. So we will look into the term visual weight. This is the key term here. What is visual weight? We will look into those details in a while. But for now, understand that maintaining a uniformity in the design is called as balance. If you again look into one more example here, there are 7 hexagons, 7 hexagons in both the compositions. So these are geometric shapes, exactly same shape, same size, same color, same shade, same elements are used in both the compositions. But in the first composition, there is no uniformity. There's a lot of emptiness here, right? But in the second one, there is sort of uniformity. Everything is distributed uniformly throughout the space. So uniformity of distributing the elements uniformly throughout the space is called as balance. So uniform distribution of visual weight of elements in a design is known as balance. That's the definition. Now let us try to understand what exactly is visual weight. Let us get into these details. What is visual weight? If I ask you what is weight, weight is a measure of how heavy something is. If I ask you what is the weight of your laptop, you will give me some answer in kilograms. What is the weight of the table? You will give me some answer in kilograms, right? How heavy something is. How heavy is the stone? Its weight, you need to know its weight, right? So weight is basically how heavy something is. You measure it in kilograms. Visual weight is the same thing, how heavy something is, but visually. We're not, if I ask you what is the visual weight of this hexagon, you cannot give me an answer in kg, but visual weight will tell you how heavy something is relative to others. So there are, if you see over here in this picture, there are 6 hexagons which you see over here, 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. Which one has more weight? This one, because it is larger in size. Something which is larger in size will have more weight. So weight, visual weight is visually how heavy something is. So the fifth, number 5 hexagon is heavy because it is larger. But size is just one factor. There are many other factors which affect visual weight. Visual weight is not very simple, like it will depend on size. There are a lot of factors which govern it, including color, including shape, including density and complexity. So let us look into those factors. How can you alter or control the visual weight in a design? Let us get into those details. So visual weight, there are a lot of factors on which visual weight will depend on. Let us try to get an understanding one by one. The first factor which affects visual weight is color. First factor which affects visual weight. So this is within the topic of balance, the first principle of design. Within that, because we understood what is balance, uniformity in distribution of visual weight. What is visual weight? It depends on all these factors like color. So in terms of color, red is considered to be heaviest color. You can see the scale of color weight. Weight of a color depends on its hue. So red color is considered to be a heavy color. Then comes blue, then comes green, then comes orange, then finally comes yellow. Yellow is considered to be the lightest color. So in terms of color, the weight is defined on this scale. Red, because it's, so in any composition, if you use a red colored spot, your first sight will go on to that red spot because that is a heavy color. So relative importance of colors is defined on this scale. That will define the visual weight of the colors. So that is first factor affecting visual weight, color. based on the scale. Red, remember, is the heaviest color. Second factor which affects visual weight is contrast. What is contrast? Relative darkness or lightness. Relative to what? Relative to background. How dark or say bright something is with respect to background. Imagine in very simple terms, I have a black colored shirt with a red colored KP logo on my shirt. Just imagine this red colored logo. I have it on a red colored shirt. Instead of black, my t-shirt says of red color and there's a red logo on it. Will this logo stand out? Obviously no. The logo is standing out because it's a black background. So with respect to background, what is the color? That is contrast. So the same logo will have less weight. This logo is having a lot of weight on black shirt. But if I take this logo and place it on a red shirt, its weight will reduce. Why? Because there is a less contrast with respect to background. Contrast also will increase the visual weight. So if there is better contrast, you will have more weight. So one more example, I have a board with white colored screen. Imagine the background also is black in color. Will I be standing out on the screen? Obviously no, because it is white in color, there's a contrast and so I'm standing out in the picture. So contrast, relative importance, that also will define the visual weight. So visual weight is basically how heavy or how important something is, how important an element is. So why is this KP logo standing out and is heavy? Because there is better contrast with the shirt's color. So contrast is basically the relative darkness or relativeness, you can say. In simple terms, you can just say relativeness with respect to background. Is it standing out or not? You can look into one example to understand contrast in a better manner in this picture. So you see a square of some shade, ash colored shade, gray colored shade. In both these pictures, you actually have the same square, but in the first picture, the background is a contrasting background. So in this picture, there is higher contrast. Because there is higher contrast, the square is standing out. Is the square standing out here? No, because the background is light. There is less contrast here. So when there is better contrast, higher contrast implies more visual weight. I'm writing in short VW, visual weight. So why is the visual weight more? Both are same element, same square here, same square here. Actually they are same element, but the same element is having more weight here because of its contrast. Not only that, even shape will govern the visual weight. You have the same flowered pattern with same number of petals, same color, but this is having more weight, this is having less weight. Why? Because this is larger in size. Something which is larger in size will have more visual weight. So that is also so make a note on the factors of visual weight. The main factors affecting visual weight, number one is color. Depends on the color. From red to yellow, the weight is increasing, is in decreasing order, visual weight. Second is contrast, that is relativeness with respect to background. Third one is lightness or darkness. We'll come to size also. Fourth one is size, you can see here. I already showed you the example for size. Third one, let us see lightness or darkness. How light or how dark something is. If you look into these two rectangles, both these two are rectangles, same element, same size, but the first rectangle is more in weight. Why? Because it is darker. Because this is lighter, the second rectangle is having less visual weight. So the visual weight also depends on the lightness or darkness. If something is dark, its weight will increase, right? So lightness or darkness and also the contrast with respect to the background, both are important, right? So that's the third and fourth. So first factor affecting visual weight is color. Second factor affecting visual weight is contrast, how relative how is an element relative to its background, that is relativeness. Third important factor affecting visual weight is lightness or darkness, how dark or light something is compared to the background. And the fourth important factor affecting the visual weight is the size. Something is larger in size, it will have more visual weight. Then you have the fifth factor affecting visual weight, that is density. Density is how closely you're packing things. If you're placing a lot of elements close to each other, that will also increase the weight. If you remember in the previous example, 6 hexagons are placed in one corner here. So there's a lot of weight concentrated over there. So that density, how closely you're packing up things, that also will affect the visual weight. You can look into one more example for that, for understanding of that. Here in the flag of United States, you see there is red color in a lot of area. Most of the 80% of the flag area is covered with the red and white stripes, right? The remaining part, how is so much of red being balanced? It is being balanced by, this is a balanced composition. Most of the flags are balanced compositions, including this flag. Why is it balanced? Because so much of red is balanced by density and complexity over here. So you have both these also are factors affecting visual weight, density and complexity. Complexity because there are complex shapes. The remaining is all straight lines. Here you are having stars. Star is a relatively complex shape considered to straight lines, right? So you have complex shapes, and those complex elements are closely packed. That is density. So density and complexity also increase the visual weight. So because you're concentrating the density and complexity in this small area, that is able to balance this large red heavy weight. So if the question in the flag of United States, if I ask you, why is this less area balancing so much of red color? Because red is a very heavy color. How is the small space, small area balancing it? It is able to balance because of that complexity and density. If you remove the stars, it will not be a balanced composition anymore, because red is a heavy color and heavy color is on a larger area, right? So to create a balance, you require complexity and density in the flag of United States. So that is how you understand about density and complexity, 5 and 6. So these 6 are the basic factors affecting visual weight of the elements in design. How important an element is, or how an element is standing out or not, you can understand that based on these factors of color, contrast, lightness or darkness, size, density and complexity. These are the 6 factors which affect the visual weight of the element in design. Now using these factors in any design, when you create a composition using elements, you need to place those elements using the uniformity of this visual weight. Whatever visual weight we discussed, you need to maintain a uniformity of that visual weight in design. So that aspect of maintaining a uniformity in the visual weight of the design is called as balance in a design. That is the first basic principle of design. Now before we move to the second principle of design, you need to understand the types of balance. There are different types of balance also within the uniformity of distribution of visual weight. There are 3 types of balance. So that is something which you need to have an understanding about. So let us look into the types of balance, but before that, one example over here. It's a composition, one heavy red colored heart. It's a large size heart and a very heavy color, red color, that is being balanced by, so this heavy color large size, it is a heavy color large size, it is balanced by more variety, density and complexity. Density because elements are closely packed, complexity because there is a variation of color, different colors. So if I ask you, how is this single heart able to balance so many hearts? The single heart is able to balance so many hearts because it is larger in size and it is a heavy color. If this would have been a yellow heart, there would not be balance in the composition. Because it is red, there is a balance. Why? Because red is a heavy color. Because of that reason, even single heart is able to balance so many hearts, right? So that is how you can use these visual weight factors and play with them to create a balanced composition like what you see in this composition. So that is how you do, that is about balance and how you create balance in design. Let us look into the details now about the types of balance. There are 3 types of balance. Let us get an understanding. Nothing to worry, it's very simple. Just follow the points we are discussing. It will be very easy for you to understand. Make sure you make it a point that you maintain a running notes. That is very important for your revision. And also download the free study resources available on the app for your better understanding of the points which we are discussing. So let us look into the 3 types of balance. Balance is of 3 types. So what are those 3 types of balance? First one, number 1 is symmetrical balance. First type of balance is symmetrical balance. What is symmetrical balance? Symmetry is basically 2 equal halves, right? Human body is symmetrical. Why? You have one eye to the left, one eye over here, one other eye over here, one ear over here, the other ear over here. I have one hand here and the other hand here. It is symmetry. Symmetry is having 2 equal halves, right? So symmetry, hand is not symmetrical. There is a thumb over here. Do you have one more thumb over here? No, it is not symmetry. Symmetry is basically maintaining two equal halves, and symmetrical balance is basically a balance where there are two equal halves. Symmetrical balance, the first type of balance, is having two equal halves. If you're having two equal halves, that is called as symmetrical balance. So symmetrical balance number one, symmetrical balance is a type of balance where you have two equal halves. Generally it could be like left is equal to right, left part should be equal to right part. In the example I gave you of human body, left part and right part are equal, so that is symmetrical balance. Other than that, it could also be like top is equal to bottom. If the top and bottom are equal, that also is symmetrical about a horizontal axis. So having that symmetry is called a symmetrical balance, because there will be uniformity. Human body's composition, is there uniformity? Yes, because left and right are exactly equal, so it is uniformity in distribution of visual weight, and that is symmetrical balance. So symmetrical, one example of symmetrical balance is shown in this picture. This picture is symmetrical balance because if I draw a line in the center, the left and the right are exactly equal. There is one tree to the left, one tree to the right. There is one window to the left, the other window to the right. There is one bush to the left, one other bush to the right. So everything is symmetrical. Left is exactly equal to right. So that is symmetrical balance. The second type of balance which you can see over here is asymmetrical balance. Asymmetrical balance is, though it's a type of what is balance again? Uniformity in the distribution of visual weight. Even in asymmetrical balance, you do have uniform distribution of visual weight, but in an asymmetrical manner. What is asymmetry? Left is not equal to right. So asymmetrical balance is basically uniformity in visual weight. I'm writing visual weight in short as VW. You can write it in full in your notes. Uniformity in visual weight of elements with composition. Uniformity in visual weight of elements in a composition, instead of which you can write in a composition uniformity in visual weight of elements in a composition with no two equal halves. So there should be uniformity in the distribution of visual weight of the elements in the design, but with no two equal halves. Because if there are two equal halves, it will become symmetrical balance. That's the first type of balance. So in the second example, you can see this picture over here. If I draw a line in the center, is the left side and right side equal? No, it is not symmetrical. There are no two equal halves. Even if I draw a horizontal line, there are no two equal halves. Do you get two equal halves by drawing the line like this? No, right? So if I draw a vertical line, there are no two equal halves. So it is not symmetrical. But is it asymmetrical? Yeah, it is asymmetrical. But is it asymmetrical balance? So everything which is asymmetrical is not necessarily asymmetrical balance. There should be uniformity in distribution of visual weight, right? So let us try to understand, is there balance in this? Yes, there is balance. How? Because so if I ask you, why is one single tree balancing so many bushes on the left side? There are so many bushes over there. How is one tree able to balance all those bushes? Because that one single tree is a large tree. A large tree is balanced by density and complexity. Just like in the previous example we discussed over here, one large heart is balancing density and complexity of lot of hearts over here. Same thing, one single large tree is balancing density and complexity of bushes on the other side. So asymmetrical balance is where you create a balance in the uniformity. So it is basically uniformity of the visual weight of the elements in the composition where there are no two equal halves. If I draw a line, there are no two equal, but there is still a balance in the composition. That is the second type of balance, that is asymmetrical balance. The third and final type of balance is radial balance. Radial balance. Radial balance is the third type of balance where there is uniformity in the distribution of visual weight of the elements about a center point. There is uniformity of the elements in the design, but about a center point. If you look into this picture, there is a center point. all the elements are radially distributed about this center. So this is called as radial distribution. So if there is uniformity of visual weight of the elements about a center point, that is called as radial balance. So make a note on the definition of what is radial balance. It is all these are uniformity in distribution of visual weight, because all these are balance, three types of balance. So write down the definition for radial balance: uniformity in the distribution of visual weight, or uniformity in visual weight of elements, uniformity in visual weight of elements about a center point. That's called, whenever you have a center point, it's called as radial. So uniformity in visual weight of elements about a center point is called as radial balance. So generally radial balance will have a center point in the design, and the elements will be distributed uniformly about that center point. That is the third and final type of balance. So we discussed three types of what is balance firstly. So in the first principle of design, we first discuss what is balance. Uniformity in distribution of visual weight of elements in a design is called as balance. How can you change the visual weight? Based on color, based on contrast, based on size, based on density and complexity, based on lightness and darkness. So these are the 6 factors we discussed too, which affect the visual weight. Now using these factors, you can create uniformity in the distribution of visual weight. Like if you're using a large tree, that can balance density and complexity of small trees over there, right? So that is a type of balance which we studied, and there are 3 types of balance in all. Number 1, symmetrical balance, where there are 2 equal halves, left and right, or top and bottom, 2 equal halves should be there. Asymmetrical balance, where there is asymmetry, there are no 2 equal halves, but still there is a balance of visual weight. Third and final is radial balance, where there is uniformity of the distribution of visual weight about a center point. That is called as radial balance. So these are the 3 types of balance which you should know about. So there's one important point over here. Now you may ask me, when I teach this topic, some students ask me in the classes also, sir, can I divide this into 2 equal halves like this? If I draw a line, is the left and right exactly equal? Absolutely yes. So if I'm dividing it into 2 equal halves, can I call this as symmetrical balance also? Absolutely yes. This picture is not only radial balance, this is symmetrical balance also. This can be called as symmetrical balance as well, because there are 2 equal halves. So it is not necessary that this is only radial, not symmetrical. I cannot do, generally most of the radial balances are also symmetrical balance, but you cannot call all the symmetrical balances radial balances. This is radial and symmetrical, that is only symmetrical, it's not radial. So try to have that distinction, try to understand that meaning. So just if something follows this rule, it will, so that if something follows the rule of left is equal to right, 2 equal halves, it is symmetrical balance for sure. So that is how you need to understand types of balance. So let us try to have a brief practice, because we understood what is balance, what is visual weight, and how to balance. What are the 3 types of balance we already discussed. Let us practice types of balance quickly. You can type in, you can, whenever, so starting from the first, whatever answer you think is correct, you can pause the video and go and comment it in the comment section below, so that we also understand that you're following what we are teaching, right? So that we also get an understanding how you are responding, how you're learning from our videos. That will really be encouraging and also beneficial for us to improve our quality. So so try to respond to the video. So starting in the first one over here, this first picture, what type of balance is this? Look into the picture and tell me what type of balance is it. There's a center point and the elements are uniformly distributed about the center point. That is called as radial balance. Can I call it as symmetrical balance also? Absolutely yes, it is both radial balance and also symmetrical balance. So in NATA exam, you generally get picture based questions where you need to identify what type of balance or what design features are seen in a given picture. So remember, this is radial and also symmetrical balance. That's first picture. Second picture is a world famous building in Agra, Uttar Pradesh. What is it? It's a white marble building called as Taj Mahal, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world also. So we'll study important buildings. There is a separate lecture on that of important buildings also. That is also important for both NATA and JEE. So stay tuned with the lecture series. You will learn all the important buildings important for NATA and JEE examination also. So in Taj Mahal, what type of balance you have? It is symmetrical balance. I think most of you guessed it correctly, because if I draw a line in the center, you will get 2 equal halves. There is 1 minar on 2 minars on the left, 2 minars on the right. There is half dome on the left, half dome on the right. So it is symmetrical. So this is two equal parts, so symmetrical balance. Third picture, can anyone identify what that building is? If you know the answer, pause the video and comment your answer below there. What is the name of the building and where is it located? You should know all the important buildings and their location also for NATA preparation. So if you know the answer, what is the name of this building and where it is located, pause the video and comment your answer below. And let us just focus on the balance of it. Comment your answer on the name of the building, but let us try to understand what type of balance is it. If I draw a line here, there are two minars on the left, two minars on the right. There is half gate on the left, half gate on the right. So it is symmetrical, two equal halves. So the third one also, this also has symmetrical balance. Now, I told you these principles of design are used in design of various elements, various designs, including compositions, flags, logos, t-shirts, or say fabrics, or say any design. You can use balance. Even buildings, like we saw, there are two buildings which follow balance, symmetrical balance, right? So even logos use balance. Any of the balance could be radial balance, symmetrical or asymmetrical balance. Here in this example, if you see, there is logo of Apple. Two alternative logos are given. Sometimes you get such questions also in NATA exam, where they will give you four options and ask you which is the correct logo. So in these two, if I ask you which is the correct logo of Apple, if you don't, even if you get slightly confused to answer such questions, if you know the concept of balance, you can answer it, because the logo, any logo for that matter, should have balance. So this is something you should observe. Let us see in these two logos which is having balance. So if I draw a line over here, obviously it is not symmetrical, it is asymmetrical. But do you have asymmetrical balance? Let us try to understand what is asymmetrical balance. There should be uniformity in the distribution of visual weight. Do you have uniformity in distribution of visual weight here? There is a missing part of apple over here. So the visual weight is less on the left side. So this is left part, this is right part. Right side you have the whole apple, but the left side there is a bite, there is a cut. So there is less visual weight on the left side. So when you use a leaf on the top, that leaf should be positioned in such a way that it will equate the visual weight. So the leaf should actually be towards this side. Then it will balance this loss of weight on the left side, right? So the leaf is shown on the right side. So the weight is increasing on the right. There is less weight on the left. So there is imbalance. In the second logo, in the second alternative, if I draw a line in the center, there is no cut. There's a full apple on the left, but there's a cut on the right. But that cut is resulting in loss of visual weight, but that is being compensated by the leaf. You have a leaf on the right side, so it is increasing the weight on right side also. So left and right are of equal weight. The cut is being balanced by the extra leaf provided. So there is balance of visual weight. And which type of balance is it? It is asymmetrical, because there is no 100% symmetry. Left and right are not two equal halves. So this is asymmetrical balance. So you can not only identify the type of balance in a given picture, you should also learn how to identify the principles of design in various design components. So in your life, day-to-day life also, whenever, so till the date of the NATA examination, make it a habit. Whenever you come across any design, be it a flag, be it any object, be it any logo, try to observe. Whenever you have some time, try to observe what are the design features or design principles you have in it. So that is how you can also remember important logos, correct answers, how I can identify correct logos, correct designs. You can also answer such questions using these concepts. So the fourth picture, this one is asymmetrical balance. This one has imbalance. It is not a balanced composition. So that is about the first principle of design, that is balance. So out of the 7 principles of design, we completed the most important one, that is balance. The remaining 6 are very simple and easy to understand, so we'll complete them quickly. But first and foremost, we completed the first principle of design, that is balance, understood the definition, looked into the factors affecting visual weight, and then we discussed the 3 types of balance and also practiced some questions to understand the 3 types of balance. With that, let us move on to the second principle of design. But before that, let me tell you one very important point, very crucial point for your preparation. In addition to this lecture series, I already told you, you can access a free study resources on the KP Classes app also. But in addition to that, it is very important that you understand how to solve previous questions. So, what type of questions have been asked in NATA and JEE? If you want an authentic source with all correct answers and explanations, you can consider purchasing our solved papers book for NATA and also JEE. So there's a book. NATA 2023, we have a solved paper book with last 12 years of solved papers. When you purchase this book, it is available at a very affordable price. If you purchase this book, you will also get access to free online mocks. 3 online mocks will be available for free. So you can purchase this book right away directly from Amazon. You can place an order in Amazon and you can get it delivered to your home, or you can also purchase it through our KP Classes mobile app, which you have already installed and signed up into it. You can also purchase our books over there. So make sure you have this for your self reference. In addition to the lectures, have the book with solved papers with correct answers and detailed explanation for all the questions for last 12 years. So that is also seen available on Amazon and also on the app. If you want an even more detailed study material, you should consider purchasing the premium quality study material from KP Classes, where we have curated each and every module will have a separate book. Like we are doing an 8 module series over here. We are in module 1 today, which is basics of design. You can go and read our book number 1, which is basics of design. So do purchase if you're serious about your preparation. In parallel to this lecture series, you can purchase the study material, directly place the order on the mobile app itself. You can get it delivered in a printed format at your home, at your delivered address, and you can study all the books one by one after each and every module. So books are designed parallel to the course which we are going about. So once you do, so say we are doing lecture 1 today, we are completing in 4 days, we will complete module number 1. You can go through the book number 1 after module number 1, where you will cover all the topics in detail. And also the best thing is, previous NATA and JEE questions also with answers and explanation will be included in the book after each and every chapter. So once you complete the basics of design, all the questions of basics of design asked in previous papers of NATA and JEE will be included in the book. Similarly, after module number 2, you can study book number 2. So the structure of a study material is parallel to the course which you're getting over here. So you can purchase the free you can download the free app and access the free study resources. But if you want an even more authentic and very well curated study source for your self preparation, you should seriously consider placing an order for a study material set, which will be delivered to you with an 8-book set in which you can cover all the topics in your preparation. So you should consider that along with the course which you're taking over here, along with the lectures. It will be a very good value addition. So with that, let us move on to the next point under principles of design. The second principle of design is rhythm. Second principle of design is rhythm. Rhythm in design is nothing but repetition. Very simple. Rhythm, repetition starts with R. Repetition starts with R. Rhythm starts. So remember it as R to R. So rhythm and repetition. If there is any sort of repetition of elements in a design, like in Taj Mahal, there are 4 minars. There is repetition of minars. That is rhythm. Or even in this building, I'm deliberately trying not to name it because I want you to comment the answer in the comment section below. You can see there is repetition of these elements, these small windows or small arches. There is repetition that is creating rhythm. So rhythm is nothing but repetition in design. So when you create rhythm in any design, it will create an interest in the design. So rhythm is nothing but repetition of elements in the design. If you look into these pictures, there is repetition of black lines. That is rhythm. Here also there's repetition of black lines. Even though they are reducing in size, there is some sort of repetition, right? Even here the width is increasing, but still there is repetition of elements. So repetition of elements in any design is called as rhythm in the design. So that is about the second basic principle of design. Now rhythm can be of different types. So let us look into the types of rhythm. There are 4 types of rhythm. So rhythm is of 4 types. So let us try to understand what are the 4 types of rhythm, starting with the first one. Regular rhythm. Regular rhythm is a type of rhythm where the same elements repeats. It is repetition of the exactly same element. So repetition of same element is called as regular rhythm. Repetition of same element. The exactly same element is repeating. Repetition of same element is called as regular rhythm. In this picture, you can see building where the exactly same window, same shape, same size, same color, same window is repeated throughout the face of the building. So that is called as regular rhythm. Regular rhythm is where The same element repeats throughout the design. Second type of rhythm is random rhythm. Random rhythm is repetition of random elements. In this picture, you see there is repetition. It's a beach where you have a lot of pebbles, stones. Stones are repeating, so it is rhythm. But are all the stones same? Are all the stones of same size and same color? No. There are different colors, different shapes, different size. So there is some randomness in the repetition. So when you have randomness in the repetition, it is called as random rhythm. Random rhythm is basically repetition of random elements. Repetition of random elements with some common feature. Obviously, I cannot say I put 10 different objects and it is rhythm. There should be something common. What is common here? Everything is stone. So stones are repeating but of different element, different randomness. So there's difference in them, there's randomness in them. So that is random rhythm, the second type of rhythm. Third type of rhythm is alternating rhythm. This picture, it is the third type of rhythm, which is alternating rhythm. What is alternating? There is some parameter which is alternating. You have a blue elephant and a white elephant, again you have a blue elephant and then a white elephant. So what is repeating here? The alternating feature, one blue one white, one blue one white. So that is alternating rhythm. There should be an alternating parameter in the design, alternating element in the design. So that is repetition of alternating feature. So that is the third type of rhythm, alternating rhythm. Fourth and final type of rhythm is progressive rhythm. What is progressive? You progress in your school, right? So you start with first class, then you go to second class, third, fourth, fifth, and so on till 10th. Progression is nothing but growth. So progressive rhythm is where there should be a trend, a growing trend or a reducing trend. So that is progressive, repeating of trees but repeating with a growth. So that is progressive rhythm. So what is the second principle of design? Rhythm. How to remember rhythm? Simply repetition. Repeating element will create a rhythm. Rhythm is repetition. Four types of rhythm are regular rhythm, where the same element repeats. Random rhythm, where randomness is seen in the repeating element. Third is alternating rhythm, where there is alternating feature in the repetition. And fourth and final is progressive rhythm, where there is a growth, a progression in the repeating feature or repeating element. So these are the four types of rhythm. Now that brings us to the next that brings us to the third principle of design. Third principle of design is unity and variety. Unity and variety. What is unity? Unity is basically commonness. Similarity is called as unity. So what is unity? Everything together, everything, a parameter which brings everything together. Like India has unity in diversity, right? Diversity is basically variety. There are different languages, different religions, but still we are one. Why? Because we are Indians. That is unity. So unity and variety in design also is similar. Unity is commonness. Like in India, unity and diversity, unity is in everyone is Indian. That is unity. Variety, there are different religions, different languages. So variety is that difference. Even in design, there should be unity and variety. There should be something which is common. Everything, it should not, if you look at a painting, it should look like one single painting. It should not look like random elements placed on a sheet together. But still, everything should be one, but still there should be variety. If everything is monotonous, if everything is same, that will create boring pattern. To create interest, there should be some variety also. So unity and variety is important. Both are opposite, but both should be there. And a balance between unity and variety is called as harmony. So in some books, under principles of design, you will see the term harmony. Harmony is nothing but unity and variety itself. A balance between unity and variety is called as harmony. How can you create a harmonious composition? By creating a balance between both unity and variety. So unity and variety will create is basically commonness and also difference, which brings together, that is harmony. So if you look into these examples, the first composition, What is unity? What is common here? Everything is circle, same shape, everything is same color. So that is unity. What is variety? Everything is of different size, right? So that is variety. In the second composition also you have both unity and variety. What is unity factor? What is common? Everything is circle, everything is of same size. But what is variety? Everything is of different colors. So when you create designs, you should use unity and variety both. And when you use unity and variety both together in a correct balanced amount, you will get harmony. Harmony is nothing but balance of unity and variety. That's the third principle of design. So we studied balance, rhythm, unity and variety. That brings us to the fourth element of design, fourth principle of design, that is contrast. Contrast we already discussed briefly. Relativeness is called as contrast, I told you. So similarly, even in principle of design you have contrast. Contrast is difference basically. If you see over here, this is contrast in shape. This is having smooth surface, this is having pointy surface. So it is contrast, difference in shape. Here you have contrast in color, everything is of different color. Here you have contrast in scale. This is small scale rectangle, this is large scale rectangle, large size. And this is a contrast in layout. This is regular layout, this is random layout. So contrast is difference. In any design you should try to create contrast. Like in Taj Mahal, you have, I always give you the example of Taj Mahal because it is easy to relate, because you all know how Taj Mahal looks like. In the bottom part you have rectangular straight lines, on the top part you have the domes. So they are contrasting shape to each other, right? Straight lines, curved lines, they are contrasting each other. If imagine in Taj Mahal everything is just like a box, that would not create that interest in the design. So to create interest in design, there should be contrasting features. It could be contrast in shape, it could be contrast in color, it can be contrast in contrast in scale, it could be contrast in layout. So any type of contrast, any type of contrasting feature can create interest in the design. So that is difference in design is called as contrast. Contrast is nothing but something which is creating a difference. Something which is creating a difference is called as contrast, and contrast will improve the interest in the design. So that is fourth principle of design. So is that clear? We're done with four principles of design. Number one, balance. Second, we discussed about rhythm. Third, we discussed about unity and variety, which is also called as harmony. Fourth, we discussed about contrast. Let us now move on to the fifth principle of design. Fifth, and so there are total seven, right? So fifth principle of design is emphasis or focus, one of the most important principles of design. Emphasis or focus, very easy and simple to understand and very important. If I show you this diagram, there are a lot of elements. What elements? Shapes are seen. What type of shape? Geometric shapes are seen, squares and circles. What is the first element when you look at this composition? Your sight obviously will go to the blue dot over here. Why? Because it is contrasting to the others. That is where you are first looking at. Why are you looking at it first? Because everything is black and white and this is color, everything is square and this is circle. So that contrast is creating the focus. So focus is the important space in any element, in any design. There should be a focus, something you first look at. So emphasis or focus is basically creating an importance, to an element, making some element important. That element is your center point of focus. That is the hero of your design, right? So that is basically emphasis or focus. Emphasis or focus also improves the interest and quality of the design. So that is fifth principle of design. Before we move on to the sixth principle of design, let me give you one more example for focus or emphasis. I have a picture, a landscape picture taken over here. What is the first element where your sight goes to? What is the most important element in this design? Obviously the rose, right? The background is green in color, a contrasting color, red colored flower is seen, so that flower becomes the focus of this design. So focus is importance given to an element, that is called as emphasis or focus. That is the fifth principle of design. Now moving on to the sixth principle of design, that is proportion. Sixth principle of design is proportion. Proportion is basically relative size, scale. Proportion or scale are related terms which talks about relative size and dimensions. Relative size and dimensions is called as proportion. So there should be proportion in a given design. For example, if you look into this picture, if I draw a house and a tree beside it of exactly same size, so there is no standard interesting proportion maintained. That will not create interest in the design. To create interest in design, there should be good proportion. So there are two types. There is good proportion and bad proportion in design. So you should create relative size of elements to create interest. You should not place all the elements of same size. There should be good proportion or scale between the various elements of a design. So that is called as proportion. So even in Taj Mahal, now imagine in Taj Mahal, let me show you the picture also to get a better understanding. If you look at the picture of Taj Mahal, there is relative size. Is everything of same size? Is the dome as large as the door? No, there is a good proportion maintained, right? So having that good proportion of design. So proportion is basically relative size, creating relative scale and size in a manner that it is interesting to look at. That is the sixth basic principle of design, which is proportion. That brings us to the last principle of design, number 7, that is movement. So let us try to understand about movement. Movement is nothing but motion. So movement is when you look at a design, if you're taking a path, if your eye is moving in some direction, that is called as visual movement. If you look into this composition, there are a lot of circles, and the sight of the observer, when you look at the composition, it is directed along these shapes into the spiral form. So that is creating a movement. Movement in design can be directed along lines, edges, color, or shapes. You can create a movement along shapes, you can create a movement along lines, you can create a movement along color. So movement is basically a visual path taken by an observer. Movement is a visual path. You're not actually moving along this path, but your sight is moving along this path. That is visual path along elements in a composition. So if there is a visual path taken by the observer along elements in a composition, that is called as movement. One more additional point you can remember here is, based on the orientation of lines also you can create movement. For example, if you use vertical lines improve the sense of height. Vertical lines increase the sense of height. So if you have a short person, and if that short person is wearing a shirt with vertical stripes, it visually will increase the height of that person. So visually there is an importance given to height. So increase the sense of height. How can you increase the sense of height? By using vertical lines. How can you increase the sense of width? By using horizontal lines. Horizontal lines will increase the sense of width. If someone is very thin and you want them to look wider, they can put a shirt with horizontal bands. That will visually increase the sense of width. Similarly, when you use diagonal lines in any design, that will create visual movement. So diagonal lines will create or will increase the sense of movement. Why so? Why are diagonal lines increasing the sense of movement? Because they are not stable. Now remember one more term associated with movement. When something is moving, it is called as static. Static is basically no movement in design. If something looks stable, if there is stability in design, if nothing is moving, that is called as static or stable. If there is no movement, it can be called a static design or a stable design. If there is sense of movement, it is called as a dynamic design. A dynamic composition will have movement. Once in NATA exam, they gave options static and dynamic also. So you should know what is static, no movement in design. So stable design. Dynamic design is where you have movement. So these are dynamic lines. Why so? Because horizontal and vertical relates to stability, but diagonal it shows that they are falling down, right? They are not stable, they are diagonal. So that will increase the sense of instability, and when there's instability, it creates movement. That's the reason diagonal lines increase the sense of movement. So to summarize, movement is the visual path taken by the observer. You can create movement also by using the diagonal lines, because They depict dynamic composition where there is movement. If there is stability in design, that is called as a static design where there is no movement. So that is about the seventh and final principle of design, which is movement. Let me quickly summarize the points we discussed under the principles of design, and then we will look into the practice questions, right? So let me quickly summarize the points. So we discussed 7 principles of design. I'm not discussing the elements of design. We discussed 6 elements of design, that is separate. Coming to the 7 principles of design. If you want to remember, there's a shortcut also here. There's a trick also. You can devise your own tricks to remember things. If someone asks you what is the list of 7 principles of design, how do I remember the list of 7? Because I created a shortcut to it for myself. You can also create your own shortcuts that way in your course of your preparation. So the shortcut here is Bruce PM, BRUCEPM. This will give me this is basically an acronym which I created to remember the 7 principles of design in order. So these are in the order of what we discussed in the class also. That's the reason I intentionally taught you in that order. So remember using this trick of Bruce PM. What is Bruce PM? The first principle of design with B is balance. And under balance, we saw that the definition is uniformity in distribution of visual weight, and we saw there are 3 types of balance. So under each and every point, try to remember the additional points also. Along with balance, you have to remember that there are 3 types of balance: symmetrical balance, asymmetrical balance, and finally radial balance. There are 3 types of balance we discussed. Second principle of design, starting with R, Bruce PM. R is rhythm. RHYTHM, and I told you what point to be remembered with respect to rhythm. Rhythm can be created using repetition. Repetition creates rhythm, and we saw 4 types of rhythm: regular rhythm, random rhythm, alternating rhythm, and progressive rhythm. These are the 4 points we discussed under rhythm. So try to summarize these points in one place. So prepare a short notes along with your running notes. Prepare a short note with all these points, so that before the exam, when you go through your short notes, you should recall all the points. So that is about the second principle. Third principle of design with U is unity, where we studied about unity and variety. And the point to be remembered under unity and variety is, I told you, balance between unity and variety is called as harmony. Then we saw the 4th principle of design, that starts with C, contrast. Fifth principle of design, starting with E, is emphasis. I told you emphasis is also called as focus. Then you have P for proportion. 6th principle of design is good proportion. 7th and final principle of design is movement. So those are the 7 principles of design. So maintain a note and remember the 7 points. Shortcut to remember here is Bruce PM. Balance, rhythm, unity and variety called as harmony, contrast, emphasis also called as focus, proportion and movement. These are the 7 principles of design. So let us practice some NATA questions, previous NATA questions from this topic, to get a better understanding of what type of questions are actually asked in the examination. But before that also, there is one small quick revision for you. So in this slide, we have 2 pictures, and both these pictures represent the same building. The name of this building is Parthenon. It is one of the most important buildings in ancient Greek architecture, one of the most important buildings in history of architecture. It is a white marble building which is seen in ancient Greece, in the city of Athens, and Athens is the capital of Greece even today. The name of this building is Parthenon. So let us discuss the principles of design in this particular building of Parthenon, which is in Athens, in the country of Greece. That is the location of this building. So this is the original depiction of the building. This is a remains of the building in today's time. It is a 2,500-year-old building almost. So that's the reason it is in a dilapidated state, in ruins. So let us discuss the principles of design. Can you also think yourself, starting from the first principle of design, what are the various principles of design which are visible in this? Number 1, you have balance in it? Absolutely yes. If I draw a line in the center, there's a balance of the left and right, so there are two equal halves. What type of balance it is? Symmetrical balance, obviously. So this building has symmetrical balance because there are two equal halves in the face of the building, right? Other than that, do you have rhythm? Is there something repeating? Yes, the columns are repeating in nature, so you have rhythm also because of repeating columns. You have regular rhythm, right? Rhythm is also seen. Other than that, do you have contrast in shape? Yes, you have horizontal, you have normal straight lines here, and you have triangular part on top of it, so there's a contrasting shape. So you have contrast in shape also. Do you have good proportion? Yes, there's a good proportion maintained. If the building would have been straight lines and equally large triangle also on the top, that is a bad proportion. But here a good proportion is, the relative size is maintained in an interesting manner. So there is good proportion also. So you see various features. It's not necessary that you find all the 7 here. Do you have focus? Yes, there is focus on this triangular part on the top. So it does have focus also. Is there movement here? No, there is no movement in this particular diagram, so in this particular building. So it's not necessary that you have all the 7 principles of design always in all designs. You can have any number of, so in this we find 5 basic principles of design represented. So in any building, in any design, you can have one or multiple principles of design depicted, not necessarily all the 7. You can obviously have all the 7 too, but not necessarily always. So that's a quick recall of the 7 basic principles of design which we discussed in today's lecture. So let us move on to the practice of previous NATA questions. But before that, let me briefly introduce you to the various products which we are providing at KP classes. So you by now probably know, during the course of lecture, you know how we teach. So we strive to provide you premium quality content, be it study material, be it test series, be it online lectures, be it classroom program, or be it free study resources on the app. We strive to provide you premium quality content always, be it free or also paid subscription. So if you're interested and you like what we teach and you want to take our guidance to prepare for the competitive examinations like NATA and JEE, you should seriously consider enrolling into our online live classroom program. In online live class, so this one is a recorded lecture which you're watching here on YouTube, but in a live online lecture series, you will directly have a live class where the teacher will come and teach you live on live to you, so that you can also discuss your doubts then and there if you have any doubt, right? So it will be a live interactive session. So you can join a live online class where we have an interactive course, even more detailed one, where you study all the concepts. Here also we are covering 100% of the syllabus, but we do it on a regular basis, maintaining a uniformity throughout the time you're having for the examination. So do consider enrolling into our live online classroom program, or you can also enroll into a recorded classroom program where you have an even more elaborate lecture series available. So you can enroll into that also. You can also access, if you have sufficient preparation from this lecture series, you have accessed our free study resources, and you have bought our study material set of 8 books and studied for yourself, do consider purchasing a test series for your self practice. In the test series, you will have previous solved papers, you will have new mocks. So that, what are mocks? Basically replica of the original exam, same level of questions, same pattern of the questions. You will get an idea of how the actual exam will be, so it will give you better practice. So do consider purchasing a premium test series. You can purchase a premium test series, complete guide for NATA and JEE book, or you can purchase a full-length classroom program or full-length live recorded program. Or you can purchase all these content on the KP classes app directly. So you have downloaded the app and already signed up into it by now probably. You can purchase any of the resources which you feel is comfortable for your self preparation. So let us, by the end now, let us end the session. Almost towards the end. Let us discuss the practice questions from the content we discussed today. We discussed 6 elements of design, 7 principles of design. Let us now, using those concepts, answer these questions. This is a 3 marks question. In NATA exam, you have multiple select questions for 3 marks. Very crucial, very important for improving your score in NATA exam. So let us try to look into these crucial pattern of questions where multiple answers will be correct in this. There are 9 options. You have to select. Let us read the question. Choose any 4 most appropriate principles. So it's a question of principles of design. 4 most appropriate. So you have to select 4 answers, not 1 correct answer. Choose any 4 most appropriate principles which can be commonly observed in the given image. The given image, from this image, what are the 4 points you can observe? So let us, the best way to go about these MSQ questions is going by elimination approach. Let us go option by option, eliminate what you think is incorrect, and then select the correct options, right? We have to select 4 correct options in this particular picture. Starting with the first, balance. Do you have a balance? Is there uniformity of visual weight? No, obviously there is a lot of weight in the center. There is no uniformity throughout, right? There is more weight in the center, less weight in the outer part. So there is no balance in this. There is no uniformity. Of why no balance? Because there is no uniformity of what? Of visual weight. No uniformity. Maintain a notes also. Explanation. No uniformity of visual weight, so there is no balance in this picture. Second is depth. Do you have a visual depth? Is there a concentration created in the center? Yes, because of the increasing darkness, lightness to darkness. This is light. As you move inwards, the darkness is increasing. So that is creating a sense of depth. It's like a well, creating depth inside, right? So visual depth is seen in the center. Then the third option is symmetry. Do you find symmetry in this picture? Can you divide this picture into two equal halves by drawing a line? If I draw a line like this, obviously these are not two equal halves. There's a triangle here and there are flat lines. The shape is not same. So any line you draw will not create two equal halves in this picture. So symmetry is not correct. So this is asymmetrical balance basically. Next one, repetition. Do you have a repetition over here? Yes, there is repetition of black and white lines. So repetition is seen. Repetition of basically the black lines. Right? So that is repetition. Parallelism. What is parallelism? Using parallel lines. Do you find parallel lines in the composition? Absolutely yes. These are parallel lines. Then you have parallel lines here, parallel lines here. So there is parallelism in this picture. There are multiple areas of the picture where you have parallel lines. So if you're using parallel lines, that is called as parallelism, parallel lines in the composition. Then you have focal point. Next option is focal. So the correct options till now are option B and option D and option E also, parallelism. Next you have focal point, option F. Do you have focus or emphasis? Yes, focus is created at the center, that is dark in color. So focal point also is correct. F. Foreshortening, option D. Option G is foreshortening. Foreshortening is basically manipulating the scale in a space. For example, if I put my finger close to the camera, something like that, it's creating a foreshortening. The hand is disproportionately larger, right? That is called as foreshortening. Do you have such manipulation of the scale or proportion here? No, everything looks uniform only. So foreshortening is not a correct answer. Then you have contrast. Do you find contrast? Absolutely yes. Black and white is perfect contrast. So contrast is correct. Why contrast? Because there is black and white, right? So H also is a correct answer. Last one is fluidity. Fluidity is nothing but movement. Do you have movement? As such, there is no fluidity here because there is no movement along some shape or color or something, right? So the correct options over here. The correct options over here are B, D, E, F and H. Of these options, so there are 5 correct options. Of these, you can select any 4 and write them in the exam. So how to answer these in NATA exam? Go by elimination approach. And if you feel you're confident about B, D, E and H and you're not sure about F, you can leave F. You need not write all the 5. You should answer any 4 and all the 4 should be correct. Instead of B, D, E, F, if I write A, B, D, F as the answer. B, D, F are correct, but A is wrong. Even if you do one mistake, you will lose all your 3 marks. So you should be very careful in answering these questions. Maintain a list and then answer those options which you're very confident about. If you're not confident about something, you can leave that option, right? So you have to answer 4 correct options in this question. One last question for this video. Again, a 3 marks NATA question, a multiple select type question. Let us discuss this question as well. So first read the statement. Choose any foremost appropriate principles or elements of design which are commonly observed in the image. So in this image, there are some elements and principles of design. You have to select the 4 most appropriate correct principles or elements of design. Let us again go by the same elimination approach one by one. Let us remove the incorrect answers and select the correct options. First option is solids. Solids or form. Under elements of design, we studied form or element. That's the 4th element of design. So solids are seen because there are 2 cubes here. So A is one correct answer. B is contrast. Do you have contrast? Yes, the background is red. And why is those green cube standing out? Because there's a contrasting background. If the background also is something like blue or white, blue or green, the cubes would not stand out. But because there's a contrasting color in the background, red color, the cubes are standing out, right? So contrast is seen in terms of contrasting color. Contrast can be in terms of shape, contrast can be in terms of form, contrast can be in terms of layout, right? We studied, so contrast in color is seen here. So B is the second correct option. Then you have asymmetry. Is there any line you can draw and divide this picture into two equal halves? No. Any line you draw, there will be two unequal halves. So there is asymmetry. What is asymmetry? There will be no equal halves. You will never get two equal halves. So there is asymmetry here. So C also is correct. Option D is figure and ground. I told you what is figure and ground, positive and negative space, black and white. Do you have black and white here? No. Figure and ground is not seen. Next one is balance. Is this a balanced composition? Absolutely yes. How is this dark patch being balanced? This dark patch is being balanced by a bright color. A bright red portion is balanced by the dark patch. Bright red is a very heavy color. How is this heavy color area being balanced? It is balanced by a dark patch. Lightness or darkness also will increase the visual weight. So there is balance. And which type of balance it is? It is asymmetrical balance. Asymmetry also is one correct option. Balance also is correct. There is asymmetrical balance in this question. So E is the next option. Next, distortion. Is there any distortion of form? Is any cube distorted? No, everything is perfectly correctly represented. So distortion is not correct. Rhythm. Do you have a repetition? You cannot just place two cubes and say it is repetition. Repetition is more than two. There should be at least 4 or 5. That's when you can call repetition. So this is not rhythm. There is no repetition because there are only two cubes. So that is not repetition or rhythm. Last two options are static and dynamic. H and I. Static, is this static or dynamic? Dynamic is having movement. Static is having stability. Is this having stability or movement? It is having stability. The small cube is balanced on the corner of the larger cube. So this composition is having a balanced composition. So it is a stable composition, static composition. So static is correct. H will be the last correct option. So the correct options are A, B, C, E and H. Of these 5 options, you have to answer any 4. Any 4 which you're confident about. Whichever 4 you're confident, you can answer them. Even if you do one mistake, you will lose all your 3 marks. So you have to be extremely careful in these multiple select questions. So I hope this video was helpful for you. In this video on day 1, we completed the first topic of basics of design. We also discussed some questions. So we'll follow the same pattern for all the 51 days. So do stay tuned with our lecture series. You will get lectures on a continual basis, not on daily basis probably, but you'll have a continuous availability of the videos. So subscribe to the channel, and whenever we put on the second day's video, you'll get a notification of it. And if you follow day 1 till day 51, you will cover the entire syllabus with enough practice for your NATA and JEE-2 preparation. Thank you for watching the video. Do like, share with your friends the same video, and if you have any doubts, you can comment it below in the comment section below the video. Thank you everyone.